The Hall of Tortured Souls, Lomando.com, and Do Skyrim Foxes Lead a Treasure? All of this and more on Missing Number. There's an obscure urban legend that Microsoft was hiding a satanic secret back in the day, and it turns out that it was true. The secret could be found in the unlikeliest of places, Microsoft Excel 95. To unlock the secret, the user had to do the following. Open Excel with a blank worksheet, select row 95, click Tab, then in the menu bar, click on Help, and then About Microsoft Excel. Finally, you then had to click on the tech support button while holding down Ctrl-Alt-Shift. If done correctly, you would unlock the Hall of Tortured Souls. This was a hidden game that was actually playable in Excel. If you head up the stairs, you can see the names of the Excel development team. Not only that, but there's actually another secret. If you go to this wall and type Excel KFA, the wall will disappear, revealing a room with a narrow zigzag path. Crossing it is apparently difficult, but if you make it to the other side, you will find pictures of what is presumably Excel's developers. The game is most likely based on the original 1993 Doom, which Microsoft later ported to Windows 95. The Excel KFA code is even similar to Doom's IDKFA cheat code. While this seems like a fun nod to Doom, the rumor is that development of Excel 95 was so brutal that it felt like torture. That would explain the name of the game and the hellish red sky. This would also explain why the game was even made in the first place, to honor those that poured their blood, sweat, and tears into making Excel 95. This is Lomando.com, or as it's also known as, Fancy Island. It's a Japanese website that looks cute and innocuous, but looks can be deceiving. If you click on the adorable cat girl image, you'll experience something that's not so adorable.
야! 僕が踊ってる最中に出てくる。
What in the holy hell of Talos is this? How did we get from here to here? According to the game's wiki and fandom pages, this is a point-and-click horror puzzle game in which the goal is to get to the game's mysterious gallery by defeating the final boss named Payama God. Each screen has a puzzle you have to solve, and the more you advance, the more horror you'll witness. On the surface, the game's completely nonsensical and freakishly bizarre, but the game does apparently have a coherent backstory. Some of the game's screens, like this one, which shows a newspaper in a web browser window, purportedly reveals just what's going on. According to one fandom page, the game is about a manager named Yukihito who created an indoor amusement park called Fancy Island. At this park, which had a cute pink exterior, there was a cat mascot named Mimi. There were also two performers called Payama Pieman and Payama MK2 who were hired to do magic tricks. One day, there was a virus outbreak at the park, which resulted in 17 people being hospitalized, and the park ultimately shutting down forever. The manager, feeling guilt and sorrow, wrote in his diaries about how he had depression, nightmares, and suicidal thoughts. The manager would later die under mysterious circumstances. Eventually, newspapers reported that ghosts had taken over the amusement park. It was turned into a nightmarish haunted attraction, but the outside of the park still looked cute and inviting as it did before. As such, unsuspecting people continued to enter the park. But Payama God, who was now in charge, basically killed everyone. Their souls were then grafted into dolls and used as Payama's minions. However, not all ghosts were evil. When you, the player, enter the park, friendly ghosts like Yukan no Shonen help you get through the haunted attraction, which is filled with hostile ghosts. Eventually, you face off against Payama God, as well as Payama Pieman and Payama MK2, and once they're all defeated, you finally arrive at the gallery where you set all the ghosts free.
Fancy Island クリアおめでとう
Legend tells of a creature unlike any other in Skyrim. It has a power not even the dragons possess. This creature is a fox. Ever since Skyrim was released, there has been a long-running rumor that foxes led to treasure. It's an odd yet interesting myth, but is it true? I tried finding out for myself. I couldn't find my copy of Skyrim, so I downloaded a ROM of it. I created a brand new character and ventured off into the wilderness, where I eventually encountered a fox. After following it for around a minute, the fox ended up leading me to a nearby fort. I opened the door and was warmly greeted with open arms. And sure enough, I found treasure. So technically, the fox didn't lead me straight to treasure, but rather, it led me to a place nearby that contained pretty standard items that I could loot. This was the case after following other foxes as well. While none of them led me to incredibly rare, valuable treasure, they did lead me to places like a campsite, which had a knapsack filled with clothes, books, potions, and gold. There was also a snow fox that led me straight to a crab or shanty, which contained food. Other times, foxes led me to NPCs. After following one particular fox for around 4 painstakingly long minutes, it eventually led me to an NPC, which for some startling reason, was standing next to 2 corpses that had lootable gold, armor, and weapons. Again, this is technically treasure. And in the most Bethesda way possible, foxes can even dive underwater and lead you to sunken treasure, as seen in this YouTube video by Hood Hippo. However, oftentimes foxes won't lead you directly to treasure, so you have to search an area for a bit to see if anything's actually there. But there are times when foxes won't lead you to anything, and will just run around in circles. To get to the bottom of the treasure hunting foxes, a former Bethesda developer named Joel Burgess took to Twitter to explain just what was going on. In August 2021, Burgess expounded that shortly after Skyrim shipped, the team at Bethesda did an informal investigation into the foxes after hearing rumors about them online. The foxes were never intentionally programmed to find treasure, but Burgess explained that Skyrim has an invisible navigation system in which foxes are only programmed to run away and to follow invisible triangles scattered around the game's world. Large barren areas have less triangles, but points of interest like campsites, ruins, NPCs, and places with loot have more triangles. So naturally, foxes will go to places with the most triangles, which happen to be places that are likely to contain loot. So foxes do lead to treasure, sort of. Payday 2 has a succulent mystery. In the Bullock's Mansion level, there is a spacious room with a chandelier hanging above. It's nothing unusual, but what is unusual is what's inside the chandelier. There's a plate of churros tucked inside. When you pick it up, you'll unlock an achievement, which then unlocks a mask. But you may be asking, just why is there a delicious deep-fried pastry inside a chandelier? That's a very good question, and it's a question that no one seems to have an answer to. Not even my friend, who's a big Payday 2 fan, knows the story behind the scrumptious snack. He guesses it's an inside joke amongst the game's developers. Interestingly, in one level, a churro does serve a gameplay purpose. In a map called Breakfast in Tijuana, you can select churros that are spiked during the pre-planning stage. When selected, it will cause the front gate security guard to be fast asleep, which makes sneaking past him easier. The plate of churros can even be seen on the guard's desk. I never played The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. The game had an underlying darkness that made it a little bit too creepy for me to play. I watched other people play the game when I was younger, and there was one particular thing that I saw in the game, or rather heard, that sent shivers down my spine. The ReDead zombies. The screaming is downright terrifying. Hearing it for the first time petrified me when I was a kid. In fact, the shrieks are so terrifying that it can actually cause Link himself to be paralyzed with fear, making him unable to move. What's more, the way the lanky skeletal creatures just idly stand or crouch in a given area makes them even creepier. And for some strange reason, they wear a wooden mask. In the sequel to Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, the ReDeads make another appearance, but this time, they actually dance and ignore you if you wear certain masks. In Ocarina of Time, it was natural to assume that the zombies in the Castletown market were once human citizens turned undead thanks to Ganondorf, but it turns out that the citizens survived Ganondorf's wrath and escaped to safety. So if ReDeads aren't undead humans, what are they? Interestingly, according to the ReDead trophy descriptions in the Super Smash Bros. Series, the ReDeads aren't reanimated human corpses, but rather, clay monsters turned into humanoid shapes due to magic. The ReDeads may be based on Haniwa sculptures of ancient Japan. The figures were made out of clay and were either buried with the deceased or laid around tombs. Part of their purpose was to protect the deceased in the afterlife. A pair of dancing figures that were found may explain why the ReDeads dance in Majora's Mask. Quick, is this Ryu or Chun-Li? My first immediate thought was that it was Ryu, but it turns out that people were divided on this. In November 2019, a Twitter user named TechiTauki tweeted that they were surprised that people thought that this was Chun-Li that was gracing the Japanese SNES cartridge of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. This tweet ended up going viral, with big websites like IT Media even picking up on it. A poll asking whether it was Ryu or Chun-Li was even created, in which nearly 45,000 people responded. Former Capcom artist Akira Yasuda even chimed in, saying that he thought it was Chun-Li. One clue is that on the left side of the face, you can see what could be Chun-Li's hair ribbon, or it could be Ryu's headband. So which is it? To solve this mystery once and for all, IT Media, in which its Japanese website was Google translated to English, contacted Capcom, who actually responded and said that the character used is Chun-Li. The artwork was taken from a pamphlet that was made for the arcade version of Street Fighter 2, and the illustration is by Shoei, who also worked on the Monster Hunter logo.